Hello and welcome to the new AWS training for beginners. Siavash is here, and in today's tutorial we are going to learn how to launch a Windows instance in AWS Free Tiers and connect to it. So let's begin. First of all, open your favorite browser and point to aws.amazon.com. We've learned how to create a free tier account on AWS. So let's do that, aws.amazon.com. Just click on sign into the console and you can log in with your root user. And let me key in the password. It's auto-saved here in my browser. So after login, we need to go to the EC2, either from the recently visited services, click on services. Under the compute, we have a EC2. So we delete our Linux instance on previous tutorial, so we don't have any instance. We still have our key pairs and security groups if you create that. So click on launch instance, and again, to be easier, just click on free tier only. All the Amazon machine images or AMI we can use in the free tier is available here. So let's go with Microsoft Windows Server 2019. As you can see, we have all the versions of the Windows here. 2000 Windows Server 2004 core base up 2016 with containers. Let's go with 2019. Why not? So Microsoft Windows 2019 Data Center Edition, and we just select this one. This instance available only on 64-bit for x86 platforms. Again, since it's a free tier eligible, the machines we can choose here is a T2 with one virtual CPU, 1 gig memory, and support the EBS only, and the network performance is low to moderate, which is suitable for a lab, but again, for production, you need to choose proper instance based on your needs. Click next to configure instance detail. This is very similar to the Linux instance. We can choose number of CPU. The important part is which network or subnet we want to put it. For this lab, we just leave it as a default, but in the future tutorials, we will learn how to create our own VPC or sort of that logical data center within the AWS cloud and choose a different subnet. We no need to worry at this time for anything. Shutdown behavior can be stopped, which is good enough. For that moment, we don't have any script to run, and that's it. We just click on next to add storage. For default, the storage coming with this instance is a 30 gig of the general purpose SSD, which is good enough. We have other options like Provision IO SSD, but the best for the lab, that's good enough. Make sure to have a delete on termination so you no need to clean up after that, and just leave it as no encryption. But again, in the real world, we need to have a encryption maybe for some compliance reason, and that's the best practice. Add tags, again, it's very important. Let's add some tags. We can have different things like name. Let's put the Windows 2019. Can have another tag like OS Windows 2019 Server Edition or whatever you like. You just make sure that you use tags in the real world. So these are a good one. I don't know what it does. Server. Okay, that was a keyword. It looks like my keyword is not working. That's good. And perfect. So we can add a tag for management. Next, configure security group. We can create a new security group in this case because we need the RDP. So that's a way we access to our Windows instances on AWS, TCP, port 3389, and from any source. This is very dangerous, and we have a warning because it's allowed any machine in the world just do RDP in our Windows instance. Make sure that you, in the real world, just limit it to your public IP address of using the VPN or host like a jump host. You want just use that IP address. Let's name it we can call it RDP security group. Let's go with some naming convention here. That's good. So RDP security group, and there's no need to add any rules. So by default, we know that it can go out, review and launch. Just quick review, Windows 2019, T2 Micro is a very basic machine for free tier with just 30 gig hard disk, and that's rules is applying the RDP here. So you can check other stuff like instance detail. You are quite familiar with if you're following the tutorials, the hard disk, and finally the tags we just add. So let's launch, and here is important, select an existing key pair. Remember, we download our the key pair on a previous video, so choose an existing key pair, or you can create the new key pair if you don't have it. And just since we're still using the same machine, I got a key pair, and I acknowledge that I have access to selected private key files, which is aws.key. Let's just double check, go to my download, see still have it. And if you remember, for a Linux remote session, we learned how to change that key pair to the PuTTY readable file or PPK file, but just as aws-key.pem version is good enough. We go for a launch instance, and just instance launching is initiated, and our instance are now launching. So we can see the log file. Here is some stuff regarding that, some helpful resources, or the AWS. That's a very good point. For AWS, you can find very good documentation. So let's go back to view instances. Either we click on a view instance or click on instance name. And here we go. So we have a Windows 2019. We choose a name, instance IDs, auto-generated, instance state is running, and other information such as instance type. So is the status check is initializing, and we don't have any alarm. We didn't enable that advanced monitoring system, which is costly, and just left it as our still Oregon region on availability zone US West 2A. These are a public DNS automatically assigned to this machine, public IP address, and again, monitoring is disabled because we didn't choose the advanced option. The security group we apply is RDP-SG, and the key pair we're using is AWS-key is the other information. The launch time is here, so we just select that one. And again, you can just, there's a review. If you didn't watch the previous videos, these are information all regarding to our instance, like all details about the machine, what sort of OS is running, what sort of CPU they have, and those information regarding that networking, both for internal private IP addressing and the public IP address and DNS information are here. Sort of security group is running. So this is our security group we are running, is RDP-SG. This part is generated. For inbound, we allow that RDP, which is the TCP port 3389, and by default, all traffic for outbound rules are allowed. So everything can be accessible from our machine. Detail about the networking. Again, back to the VPC concept. We will review all this in future tutorials. The storage type we got. Some status checks, so it's still initializing, just waiting for machine to come up, and some basic monitoring is available for our Windows instance, such as a CPU utilization, as any failure on our instance we can review here. It's just network traffic, and also that's just disk IOPS can be available here on a different metric time, 1 hour, last 12 hours, day, or week. And finally, the tags, which is helpful for our management. So let's go and connect. Here we can use a session manager, but don't need to install that. For the client, go to the RDP client, and we need actually to download the remote desktop file based on this public DNS and username administrator. Default username is administrator. We need to get the password. Sometimes it takes time to generate the password. So let's first of all download the remote desktop file. And so we download this remote desktop file. Let me put it here. That's good. So we have a Win-2019 is the name of our instance, and we create some pre-configured remote desktop session for us. click on a get password, and now either we can browse and looking for our key pair or copy the content of the key pair here. So easier, just we got a key, just browse, go to download, and there's AWS-key, which we create on a very early tutorial. Open is automatically paste all the information of the public key here. That's actually private key here, and because the public key is already in the machine, and we just decrypt the password, and this is a password is generated for us. So by using this username and the passwords generated based on the key, we can double click on the remote desktop session. So we just click continue on publisher. Of course, it's coming from our AMI and the credential. Just click on the copy button here and paste. Click OK. And since this Windows got a self-signed certificate, just receive this warning. Click yes. And now we remote desktop to our AWS Windows instance. And it's not bad actually with the T2 instance, which is very small footprint machine with 1 gig RAM and 1 CPU. It's okay, I mean, for testing, but of course it won't be practical if you want to do something serious in production. You need more RAM for Windows instances. That's very well known in the IT world. So it's coming up. It's just network information. We just say yes, this is a lab. You're not really worried, but yeah, that's we are in Windows waiting for some initialization in a Windows, and we got the background information just coming up soon. We can see all information regarding our instance. Yeah, we are in a Windows, and here we go. We have our host name, ID of the instance, public and private networking, the size of the machine we got T2 micro, eligible for free tier again, 1 gig RAM only, or 1 gig RAM based on that AWS, exactly 1024 megabyte. And let's do some stuff, ping, see that's what we got. Again, 1 gig RAM is not bad for remote desktop. Just ping some of the DNS stuff. We are good. Let's ping google.com this time. And here we go. We got the access. And just you have a basic browsing. You can install it as you have administrative privilege. So we are good with this launching. So let's just see that what we can browse anything here. With IE is usually the first things we're doing. You just replace this IE with something better if you want. But yeah, that's it. It just we learn how to launch and connect to that AWS Windows instance. As you can see that we just less than 10 minutes with all the explanation. We just brought up a Windows machine. So just imagine that if you want to do this in a real world, or if you don't have a hardware, how long it takes to purchase hardware. If you have hardware, maybe the same time if you're using the VMware. But still, that was very easy, very cost-effective. For free tier, you can do some experiment. We have almost everything for a server manager of the Windows is accessible here. As you can see, Windows 2019 is good practice if you want to see that some new features in Windows coming up. Just prompt for a Windows Admin Center is still not feeling comfortable with that. But yeah, as our server management dashboard is launched, we can do everything, add any role and feature if you want. So just the machine is slow, so just can give it some time. And let's right click and see we have a system information. Standard basic Windows is running over the cloud. All the information. And yep, still the system server manager is collecting the info. Let me see. Yep, here we go. We have our adding the role and the features. We can have all the information. Just go with all Windows standard Windows server information. Thanks for watching. Please leave your comments. If you have any question, I'll be happy if I can answer the questions. Watch, learn, subscribe, and share. That helped me to create more video for you guys. Let's shut down this machine and I'll later delete the machine. Thank you very much.